one of the things about Bad Boys, about the last Bad Boys, is that me and I think most of the other people that were watching it were really pissed off when your character was killed off, because we were like, why would you kill off one of the best characters in the series? So it was cool that they brought you back in this one. Did you always know that you were coming back though, or was this a surprise to you when you got the script suddenly for Bad Boys 4?
It wasn't, I mean, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I kept getting messages that they were talking about this, and but you know, with Bad Boys, it's like starts and goes. Like with 3, they were talking about it starting like over a 3-year period.
Yeah.
So when they were talking about maybe bringing me back, I was, I took it with a grain of salt until they, started investigating in kind, and it was greenlit. I think a lot of people, when they do test screenings.
Yeah.
So the audience can communicate with the filmmakers, and so I'm fairly certain it was Will's idea. That's what it was brought to me was, Will think we got to bring the captain back, and I think he did it for the fans.
Well, I mean, it is one of those iconic characters. I mean, did you know? I mean, because that's the thing. I was telling some of our younger readers on the site is that when Bad Boys came out in '95, people think of Will Smith as this gigantic star, and like he was known, he was on Fresh Prince and stuff like that, but he wasn't necessarily a movie star. And people, I guess, they don't realize that, that Bad Boys back then wasn't like this $100 million tentpole movie like it is now, right? It was it was
low budget with the first time director Michael Bay, but Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson, they were incredible. They had an incredible catalog of movies.
30 years later, it's still going strong. The franchise is still.
I mean, did we even have franchises? Did they call it that? I mean, was I a brand in 1995? When did this movie come out? The first one.
95.
The Goonies. All of these movies that I've been a part of that have a tremendous shelf life.
Yeah.
I've been very, fortunate. You can't pick. You can't really. First of all, I'm a journeyman actor. I'm not a movie star, so I don't get to choose roles. Roles choose me, and so I built a career on taking anemic, one-dimensional characters on the page and then breathing life into them of my own doing, and to turn them into memorable characters. So I was fortunate in that they let me do that, and with the Bad Boys movie, there's a lot of work with the actors before you shoot a scene, but there's a lot of improvisation that goes on in there, and then you have a structure and understanding, and then you go out and you play, and that's been very successful to the audience, and now it's built an audience that is, it's not the Bad Boys that we remember. It's a franchise like Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
It's been serialized, but it's hugely entertaining, and these directors are fantastic. I really enjoyed. I'm glad they came back, and I haven't seen the movie. Have you?
I did. I had a blast. I like all of them, right? I mean, it was just, it's exactly what I wanted out of a summer movie. But the thing about the Bad Boys series, I think that makes it better than a lot of the other franchises, though, is that, there's like that real love between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith in those movies, and the love that they have for you as the captain, because the whole movie is kind of built around their loyalty to you, and kind of, I like that. I mean, I feel like, we live in an era of like quote unquote cancellations and stuff like that, where it's like kind of always, somebody's dead and accusations come out against them, and they're like, oh yeah, he must have been a bastard, right? And it's like the whole movie is kind of like, no, he was a great guy, and we're going to prove that he was a great guy. And I think that's actually kind of moving when you watch it, so I really enjoyed it.
I can't wait to see it. It's the classic actor's part where
yeah,
they say, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing Bad Boys 4. Oh, is it a good part? Well, no, it's a small part, but the characters talk about him all the time.
Yeah.
That's how agents sell you. They say, oh, no, it's only 2 scenes, but they talk about you throughout the movie.
Are you ever surprised at how some of your movies, though, like you were saying, the shelf life of how things kind of come around again? So I'm asking because Criterion just put out Risky Business again, and that was, I think one of your earliest roles, right, where you were Guido, and what they did with it, what's really interesting is that the director, I guess, who had problems with the producer, he got to come back in and recut the movie. So there's a totally different cut on it that has a much, much darker ending.
Brickman?
Yeah.
Paul Brick?
Yeah, he completely recut the movie. And it was all the stuff that apparently David Geffen made him cut out. He went and put it back in the movie. So there's 2 versions of it on the disc now. And it has a much, much darker ending. And it's kind of interesting to see a movie kind of reappraised like that, though, after 40 years, right? I guess you haven't had a chance to look at it yet, right?
I didn't even know about it. This is new to me. Because I get the Criterion channel. I watch it all the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I mean, I know that they just did Bound as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, another movie that's had insane staying power too. I mean, we have a Cinematheque here in Montreal, this bar theater with a bar in it, and Bound is probably the movie that they play the most often. But it's just such a cool movie to watch on the big screen, though, and it's fast and it's funny and it has so much energy to it. I mean, that's the movies of yours that will.
It's the staying power. Some of these movies that I was fortunate enough to be in. Is, I've done 150, 160 movies.
Yeah.
So my record, my batting score is probably 97% shit, and but that 3% is pure gold. I mean, they said, IMDb said that 4 of my movies in the Library of Congress.
Wow.
But so there's that 152 that haven't been recognized yet.
Andrew Davis said something really cool about how at the end of The Fugitive you were supposed to be dead, but that you kept moving around because you were like, there's going to be a sequel for sure. And he said, so like there was almost like Monty Python. They were carrying you out, and you were like raising your hand just to let everybody know that you were still alive. And then, U.S. Marshals came out, and it wasn't a huge hit, but then it was the #1 movie on Netflix for like a month, like a year ago. And it's funny how people kind of, maybe it was considered unexceptional when it came out, but then movies are done with such CGI now. When you see one done the old ways, it becomes a lot more impressive in retrospect, and they got a new life.
Get out of there. But, don't forget, Delilah, no. Take a walk. Don't forget that Robert Downey is really hot right now.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So Downey was in the U.S. Marshals, so a lot of people are checking it out probably because of that.
Mm-hmm. So I have to say, when you say that you're more of a journeyman actor than a quote unquote star, is that the way though? In a lot of ways, wouldn't you say that gave you a lot more staying power, right? I mean, because 40 years later, after I was looking up that your first movie was The Idolmaker, which is a great movie. And the fact that you're still around, you're still like, you know, you're super in demand. You're more in demand than you ever were. Does that give you, you know, I think that kind of role, I think you have a lot more staying power, don't you, over time?
Fuck no. I think
No, you'd rather be number one.
a lot nicer to be a movie star.
Yeah.
My quality control would have been a lot better too. I would have had the luxury of saying no to some jobs that, you know, I think it was James Mason who said there were 3 reasons to make a movie, to say yes to a part, and that's for the role, you know, for the art, for the money, or for the location. And in the old days, when they were still paying well, you know, you have these really shitty opportunities, but they kept throwing money at you to say yes. So the really good jobs, traditionally, you'll say to the agent, listen, I don't want you to blow this, so make the best deal possible. Or it's like, I could give a shit, blow it up. And, you know, in the old days, they would just throw money at you and you were able to send your kids to college.
One last question for you, and you've been very generous with your time. Just one more thing to ask you. If you look back at your career and you think about, you know, I'm sure you had many memorable experiences making movies and stuff like that, but is there any that sticks out in your mind where you're like, oh, that is the one, like, that I'm going to remember? It may not even be the movie that people recognize you for. It might just be the one that's the most important to you personally. Is there anything that sticks out immediately?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and it's the Goonies.
Really?
It's the Goonies, the experience of working on the Goonies, the everything, you know, was real in those days.
Yeah.
So the sound stages, all of the water cave stuff, we had to loop that entire movie like we were doing an Italian movie, because the machinery, I mean, they actually recorded it, but you could hear the machines and the waterfalls and all of that. So while we were shooting that movie, we were going to soundstage. I mean, I think I had 30 looping days on that. But also you had your A unit, which was Dick Donner, and our producer, Steven Spielberg, was shooting the B unit.
Wow.
And so combined, they probably shot 150 days. And Donner's A unit wrapped before Spielberg's B unit. And one day we were on the water stage, stage 16 at Warner's, and Donner had gone to Maui. He had a house in Maui because the kids were driving him crazy, because he was mostly working with the kids, and Steven was mostly, you know, doing second unit and the Fratellis.
Yeah.
But somebody said something about Don. It would be funny to wind up there. And Steven said, I'm going to send everybody to Maui. We're all going to go to Maui, and we're going to surprise Dick. And it was this big, elaborate thing. And it was a vacation for us. All of the Fratellis and the kids and their parents, and, 30 of us. And Mark Marshall, who was working for Steven at the time, went there with a big camera and a bag of money. And they were able to get Donner out of the house. And while he was out, they had rented a bus. We got from the airport to the bus, and then took all of our luggage, 30 people, and dumped our clothing in his living room. And so when he showed up, he fell to his knees laughing. And then Steven had the brilliant notion that I got to get these kids off that island. So then the next morning, he sent us all to Oahu, far enough away so the kids wouldn't bother Dick, and Dick could have his vacation. But those memories, and I mean, I recently saw the kids, and we were talking about that. I think you can even Google it. You know, the video. I think it's out there in the internet. But it was a beautiful experience.
Well, I'm glad to hear that was a great experience, because, you know, that is, to me, one of my most cherished movies, because it's part of my childhood, which I would say, you know, is the case for most people that grew up in my era. So, wonderful.
But also the next childhood. I mean, generationally.
Oh yeah, their kids,
you know, it's like,
go to their kids.
You show your kids, and
yeah,
you know, my grandkids. I mean, my grandkids have watched it.
Really? I mean, I don't
They're
think
much more critical.
I don't think you get, you know, a Stranger Things or something like that without the Goonies. It wouldn't exist, right? I doubt it.
Oh no, of course not. No,
Yeah.
I mean they were quite obviously very influenced by that. Would say it, you know.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, thank you very much for your time, man. It was awesome to talk to you, and you know, one of my favorite actors. And I hope you turn up in a lot more stuff, because I'm always thrilled to see you on screen, and it was cool seeing you in this movie again.